Hey, Rifters, welcome to the show. Subscribe, rate, review. We got a great show. Today, we're going to do chit chat. I've opened up for this guy. I mean, I guess technically I've opened up for him. We both tour with TJ Miller, CJ Sullivan, one of my good comedy pals. And it's going to be fun. All right, guys. I hate it when people text me when it's podcast time. You know what I mean? All right. Enjoy CJ Sullivan. We're coming up in 1 second.
From Hollywood, California, welcome to Reza Riffs with your host, Keith Reza.
Hi, CJ.
Hey, what's up?
How are you, buddy?
How we doing, Keith?
Yes. We're both wearing hats.
Hats and headgear.
Exactly.
Hats and ears.
We're hat and ear brothers.
Yes.
All right. How are you, buddy?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. Just living the dream for a Tuesday.
Tuesday dream. That's right.
Yeah, Tuesday dream.
Just came up on my calendar. Today is Tuesday. Ooh, 94 also came up on my calendar.
Wouldn't it have been really odd if I said Tuesday, but you looked at the calendar and it wasn't Tuesday? It was like Wednesday or something?
Right. Or that I wrote down Wednesday. Even though it's Tuesday.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm living my Thursday dream right now, even though it's on Tuesday. That's why everything's all messed up.
What is your Thursday dream?
Well, Thursday dream. Actually, this Thursday I'll be in Las Vegas, so I'll be dreaming of that. So that'll be something good. My Thursday dream will be hitting a progressive slot to get going, and so I can end this forever.
Are you doing shows in Vegas, or is it for your podcast?
Yes, doing for my podcast. I didn't line up any stage time. We're doing shows, and then it's like a Radio Row thing, so we'll be doing pods and stuff out there. And yeah, maybe I'll try to get on stage, but I don't know. It'll be pretty busy. It'll be downtown, so
yeah. Well, because I know you have your own podcast. It's like
yes.
It's like a gambling podcast.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
So I know nothing about gambling, but I want to win money. So like, what's it about? Like, just like, do you give people the odds and stuff, or like how are you feeling this?
Well, me specifically, I do a combination because it's it's sports, it's gambling, and it's comedy, and it's all into one. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'll talk about the stories of the day or what's going on in my life, and just me, and then I'll also sprinkle in some bets and things to use, you know what I mean, too, so you can make money while you're listening. A lot of podcasts they want to take your money. I'm giving them money. You know?
Yeah,
that's what I like to do. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna like take your money or take your advice on these.
Take
bets.
my money, please. The old Henny Youngman bit.
But here's the thing, like because I don't know much about sports betting, but I know I know in basketball there's this thing called 180 where like both teams have to score and their points have to go past 180 to win.
Yeah, well, 180 is when you're doing a life of gambling, and then you say, "This is not for me because I'm dead broke." You do a 180 in life, and you get the hell out and you go the other way, and you start doing podcasts about gambling. You know. No, what you're saying is the over under the total. That's
right.
That's in most sports. 180 is a similar. Yeah, 180 is like an example of a number. It's not always 180. You know, it's a difference for the game itself. You know, football, baseball, basketball, even hockey. They'll have a total for what you think the total score will be between both teams. Yeah, and you can pick over or under. Right now, it's the NFL preseason. That's the big season going on right now. And all the unders are coming in because teams don't give a shit about it, you know?
Right. So would you say a typical gambler can make a lot of money during the preseason?
Well, that's interesting that you say that because a lot of people look at the NFL preseason. They say, "Oh, you're a degenerate. You got a problem that you're betting on the preseason because they don't care." You know what I mean? Like you got a real problem if you gamble on the preseason. And I say, "Well, yeah, I know I have a problem, but it's not because I'm betting on the fucking preseason. if anything, I mean, you can find a little bit of an advantage in the preseason. It's not like you know what the hell you're talking about in the regular season. You know,
Right.
That's sharp as can be. At least in the preseason, you can they'll tell you a little bit, like, Patrick Mahomes is going to play for about 5 minutes, and then some fucking grocery bagger is going to play. Like, well, all right, well, I'm gonna bet against the grocery bagger then. You know what I mean?
Oh no, but like there has to be like I guess I'm curious, like when did you start doing this? Because like there's also a science to it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
So like what made you fascinated by this? Is it because one day you just like bet and you won a bunch of money and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this, or like that's what I'm curious about.
No. Like a lot of us, you find out. I mean, yeah, winning money is, of course, a good one of the highs. But eventually, when you get into gambling a lot, and then you realize that the wins are few and far between. You got to find your high somewhere else, and that's
Right.
And some say the action is the juice. For me personally, I grew up in the East Coast in New Jersey, near Philadelphia, and it's kind of just a way of life out there. So growing up, I learned how to count by sevens via like a touchdown, like in football. Like I always knew like as a child, I knew how to count by sevens better than I knew like 1, 2, 3, And then my dad, as a real child, tried to teach me a lesson in 3-card money, and we used to play this game called Tripoli, where you play with your pennies and stuff as a family.
Yeah.
And then he played 3-card money and conned all my pennies from me. And my mom came home and I was crying. He thought he was going to teach me a lesson about gambling, and the opposite happened. I just wanted to win it back, so I kept on trying to win it back. And I learned the game. Eventually, I learned it was a cheat, and then I've been chasing that ever since, trying to get my pennies back, I guess, from my dad, basically. And I used to take. Then I went on to grade school, and I would take my friends' bets, football bets, like basically for lunch money, like $1, $2 bets. I would cut out the point spreads in the newspaper, the Courier Post, which is the South Jersey paper, and then you put in people, and then my friends would take their bets, who they sides, which they like, and then we'd bet for $1, $2, whatever. Then that got bigger and bigger and worse, and then here I am, basically. Yeah. There is a science, though. Some people get to the analytics of it. I'm more the scumbag version of it. You know what I mean? But you need that too. You need a healthy balance. It's not all print sheets and whatever algorithms.
Right. So like I feel like if I start taking this seriously and we become best friends, like even though we already are best friends, but bester friends, I feel like maybe I could die because I don't know what I'd be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You could die, sure. I mean, that's one way to look at things. That's one way to look at new challenges and new fun things to do in life. Like, well, if I do this, but I could also die. I mean, you're gonna limit yourself, I imagine. I mean, no, the days of dying over this are kind of gone, as you know. It's now more than ever, except here in California. It's becoming legal pretty much everywhere, and the way they advertise it is it's a little problematic. We're gonna look back at it the way I believe now, we're gonna look back at the way they do commercials for gambling now, the way we look back at cigarettes. Like back in the 50s and 40s, because now they're like, it's risk free, kids. Just do a parlay, nothing can go wrong. You're gonna win, Yeah. And there is a dark side to it for sure. But luckily, I have an extremely addictive personality, so I know right away it's a problem. So
right, but
I have to, So I have to read my disclaimer on my show, my podcast, because we get sponsored by gambling companies nonstop. That's all our advertising, really. Is books and whatnot, and so you have to go through the whole thing of. If you feel you or someone might have a gambling problem, call this number. And I have to say, if you do feel like you have a gambling problem, and you definitely have one. You're listening to my show, The Bottom Line Bombs, on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. That's the first sign that you have a gambling problem. But like I also like to say, Keith, not all problems need fixed. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you can identify it's a problem, say, yep, it's a problem. Doesn't mean it needs fixed. I like to call that 1-800-GAMBLER hotline, and I reported my bookie. I said, this guy's got a problem. He keeps calling me, asking me for money each week. He's obviously a sicko.
Right.
I keep telling him I don't have any, but he doesn't care.
Now, did you ever like? You've been doing this a long time. Like, did you ever like have your legs broken or anything? I'm curious by this.
Well, I have. No, I have not. The short answer to that is no. Okay. I have definitely been involved with seedy people. Do things. I've been in debt with seedy people. They don't. The thing is with that's definitely a lot of movies. They use the power of persuasion. They let your imagination go to. That's kind of. And I've been on both sides. I've also been a bookie or worked for bookies and stuff and see how it works. They never really want to do that because it's not as much worth the trouble,
right,
of what that'll lead to them. And most people, and I found this, and especially when I ran a poker game because we lend out credit, When people owe you a lot of money, you're probably going to get that back. They want to do it too. But it's the problems really come when the people owe you like $100 or $200, something kind of small amount where you're like, well, you're never going to. Yeah, they can just ignore it. You're never going to see that again. That's where it goes to. But yeah, never had my legs broken. But luckily, I don't. I never got to that point where I get a number. But yeah, like I said, if you kill, I know your good friend, the dear Norm Macdonald, of course, he's sports betting. He tells a famous story about like a guy owed him money, and they're like, "Well, you should kill him," and he's like, "Yeah, that'll solve my problem. I'll kill a guy," And then you're still gonna be owed the money. Like breaking the legs isn't gonna get anyone more money. You can break my legs. Well, I'm like, well, now I need more money. The money I owe you, the bookie, and money to fix my broken legs. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand how that. I don't understand how that stuff helps. Like, listen, I want to help you out too. I want to get out of this because there's no the feeling of owing is never good. You never want to be buried like that and have that feeling of being underwater. If you know what I mean.
But like this is what Norm always said. He always said that gambling's the only disease where you could win a whole bunch of money.
Yeah, he's exactly right. He's got a couple great gambling quotes, of course. Obviously, us in the gambling world love Norm, also in the comedy world. So, but he used to say, I remember, because he went broke a couple times via gambling, and someone asked him, how could you do that? You're such a smart guy, blah blah. How could you yourself get that situation? He's like, well, here's the thing. If you have $500,000 like in your bank account, in your bank, then you lose 450 of it. The last thing you want to do is look at that last $50,000 and be reminded of how much money you used to have. So you take that $50,000, you're like, get rid of this, and then you feel free,
I can totally imagine him saying that.
Yeah. and he's right. He's like, it's a liberating feeling when you're dead broke, when there's nothing left, because you don't have to keep chasing, that anxiety going,
Now, would you say that gambling is also kind of like comedy in a way? Because let's transition, because you're also a very great stand-up comic.
Thank you very much.
So, but would you say like it's kind of like because there's similarities to it too?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
absolutely, there's similarities, and there's and a lot of gambling is calculated risks, just like comedy as well too. Sometimes you want to put it all out there, and for comedy, the payoff. Look, the payoff can be the same as far as like when you put it out there. Like in comedy, when you try new things on stage, you can't instead of doing something that you already know that's going to work. That's not how you grow as a comedian. You have to experiment, blah blah blah, and try things different ways. And you can fall flat on your face. And when you aren't afraid to fail, which is the only way to succeed. We can't be afraid to bomb. You have to embrace that.
Right.
Or when you're working on material, whatever. I'm not saying you go out and do a special, bomb on purpose. I'm saying when you're developing a joke or developing a set, you can't be afraid to fail, and you got to embrace that bomb. And the same thing with gambling. The most common term is scared money don't make money. You can't bet scared. You can't do comedy scared. You can't do anything scared. You can do it scared, but if you have to accept you're just going to be scared when you're doing it. So when you're gambling, you have to be able to risk. We like to say never gamble amount of money that you're not willing to win.
Right.
There's a lot of people saying, never gamble as much as you're willing to lose, willing to win. So put more on it. You don't want to miss out. You know what I mean? So, so I'd say it's similar that way, where you have to have that not afraid to lose mentality, and if it does happen, you can't be affected by it. Like you can't let losses affect your mood, or you can't have those emotional swings, because you got to know either way the results are the results. You trust the process. You know what I mean? Like you can't be result based, even though gambling is very result based. But if you trust the process, you can that's all you can believe in. Because luck is definitely going to become a factor. Well, gambling, that's just the nature of it. Comedy, the same way. You're never as good as your great set or as bad as your bad set. You know what I mean? You can't let either one affect it, because it's always about the next thing anyway. You learn from it, you have a purpose with it, but you continue on.
Well, one of the things that I really love about you as a comic is you are very fearless when you go on stage. And I think like that is just so cool, because that I have so much fear when I go on stage where I want to, like we were just talking about how like,
Yeah.
we play it, some comics play it safe to always kill. You just have no fear. You just go up there. You know what I mean?
Thank you. That's a great way of saying I've seen you done terrible many a time, and you just don't care. It doesn't affect you at all. I mean, you're up there, and
That's
it's
not what I'm saying.
After bomb. And I'm like, boy, he's not afraid of anything, this guy. I mean, it's a packed house out there.
No, what I'm saying is you're very fearless, and I really I admired that about you.
I appreciate that. A lot of it's probably what comes across, maybe, but of course there's definitely fear in there. I mean, if there's not, then you're not doing it right. Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm afraid, maybe not be the right word. I'm definitely nervous. I've learned that too. That was a good saying I heard. Like, when they say, well, I'm afraid. Do something regardless. Go, well, I'm afraid to do that, Well, then someone told me, okay, well then do that while being afraid. Like, who cares, Being afraid shouldn't make you stop it. Like being afraid is. It's not going to cripple you. It's not going to break your legs, if you will. Okay, do it while being afraid, So what?
Yeah. Oh my God. So like when you were a kid and you wanted to do stand up, like when what made you go into that path? Because obviously you know a lot about gambling and sports and stuff.
Right.
And because it's two different industries.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I love comedy just as much as I like gambling and sports, for sure. And then I always thought comedy, actually, to be honest with you, I originally wanted to be like a sports talk host, which is kind of what I'm getting into now, because but early on, I'm like, well, that's kind of almost like too simple of a path for me. I'm like, it was too easy. I want something, it's going to be impossible to do, and I'll never be satisfied with. And that's comedy. Comedy was perfect for it. No matter what you achieve, it's always going to be a nightmare. So, but just growing up, of course, I love comedy, just like anyone else. I always watch tape all the stand-up, Saturday Night Lives, blah blah blah. Like VH1 stand-up spotlight, MTV half-hour comedy, everything, A&E, improv, and I would like tape it and watch it, and like I feel like, even in school as a kid, there were people funnier than me, no doubt. My friends even funnier than me, we're all funny people. But I always thought like I understood like why things were funny. You know what I mean? Like that always fascinated me. Where other people probably wouldn't want to think about that, let alone because you're taking the fun out of it. Really, you know what I mean? That's what it basically is. So I was always interested in that, and I always just loved comedy just as a genre and an art, if you will, quote unquote. And from that, I don't know. I always thought like. I read an article once that you moved to Chicago to do improv if you want to do that thing. So I tried to do that, and then I did it for a little bit, and then I didn't like passing a fake red ball to some housewife in a class. So I thought I better do something else as well. So I started.
Did you do Second City?
Yeah, I did Second City. I did all that stuff. It's great. It's good. I'm not saying certainly not bad mouthing it. You know what I mean? But it's like
it's different than stand up, though.
Oh, it sure is. And I wound up doing stand up as well, and then stayed with stand up mainly because I could get more stage time. There was more open mics, and both could definitely take from each other. You know what I mean? Improv makes you a better actor for sure, and it makes you a better actor, more of a performer. Where a lot of stand-up could use that instead of just standing in front of a microphone. Everyone thinks they have, they're Stephen Wright or something. Like, no, he can do that because his jokes are that good. You know what I mean? But you have to if you put no performance. I'm not saying you have to run and jump around or anything, but you have to give him something to look at. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like some kind of personality. I'm not saying a dance, but like a personality. And improv definitely does teach you that. At the same time, you're also relying on other people. But like anything, the bad
Which
improv
is life.
Yeah, exactly. It is life.
But no, like, have you ever, like, do you have any desire to do acting and stuff, or do you just like doing comedy and doing this?
Sure. Well, I desire to get paid, if that's what
Yeah.
you mean by that, for sure. I'm not against it that way, but I know when comics act like that, like I just want to do comedy. I don't want to do the fucking like. Okay, great. I mean, don't we all? But the point is, like, I'm not against acting. No, I would certainly do acting. I have done it before. It's a different genre, and if you look at it that way, you can bring comedy actors isn't the same as a stand-up comedian, but they're both funny. Will Ferrell's probably the funniest person on the planet. He's not a comic, but he's a comedic act. You know what I mean? But he's hilarious, obviously. So like, you have to look at it like, what can you bring into it instead of have that look like, well, it's not comedy. I just want to do that. Okay, well, great. Well, no one wants to see you do act anyway then. You know what I mean? If you're going to have that attitude. So, yeah, no, of course I would love to do acting.
It's so funny because I have that attitude.
Yeah, well, no, I have. I mean, I do too. Naturally, it's in us. Like all comics do. We're cynical because, you know why? Because one, it's scary. It's something like I was talking about before. Something we're afraid of too. We're scary. We're not naturally good at it. Like we are a comic. Why? Because we're not doing it like we do comedy all the time. And obviously we're the same when comics like or naturally comes some kind of cynical reaction to a situation. Like we write a joke about it, we make fun of it, and that's it. So acting something we're gonna make fun of because it is ridiculous, obviously. But so is comedy when it comes down to it. Standing up and talking about your fucking thoughts to a group of people it's absurd. But at the same time, it's even worse is saying someone else's thoughts to a group of people to a camera. So
no, definitely.
So I see where they both are. But yeah, I have that attitude as well. It's not comedy. I do have something against something that's not your own material. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to acting, and you are saying somebody else's written material, but you're putting something else into it by acting. I mean, there's a lot more. Emoting is something. I used to not think that, but now I actually do. Yeah, because especially when you try it, because it is difficult.
Yeah. Maybe that's something you'll learn too when you do try it, because I agree with you where it's like, but no,
like life, like you said.
But no, I wanted to ask you because technically, if we're being technical,
let's be technical. This is a technical podcast, right?
This is a technical.
Now you have not started recording yet, right? This is just a preamble, I believe, right?
No, this is recording. We're on.
I was joking, Keith. That was part of my comedy.
I'm sorry.
I would have hung up. Hung up. Can you hang up a computer? But I would have hung up this computer on the wall so it would dry out. I'll never forgive you if all this great talk was for nothing.
Oh my god, that's something I probably would have done though, just forgot to hit record. So,
sure.
But technically, I mean,
that's right.
Technically, I open up for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always bring you up,
right?
Bring TJ up. So like, I think that's cool. You know what I mean?
For sure. When we're the three of us together on one show, that's one chain. That's one big chain. That's one chain. That's a show that get to set the people of Torrance, California will never forget.
Or Dallas
or Dallas, Texas. That's right. And the Whataburgers.
Yeah. I thought
next time we should bring the Whataburgers on stage with us. That's for sure.
No, but I thought that when we did Dallas together, that was very special to me because I remember I bought you your first Whataburger.
It was amazing. You got me my first Whataburger situation. It was hyped up for sure, and it came. And then I got a Whataburger breakfast at the airport on the way out too, and that was pretty damn good as well. I'm not gonna lie.
So like that was just like one of my things because like I was telling TJ, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get CJ a Whataburger, it's gonna be great. And TJ probably thinks I'm an idiot or something because I like Whataburger, but I was like, no, me and CJ, we're gonna love it. It's gonna be great.
No, he doesn't think you're an idiot. He thought he did not think you're an idiot. He thought he really likes Whataburger. He's very passionate about Whataburger.
But no, I just thought it was cool because it was
it was, and you're right. And every time I have it or see it, I definitely think of you.
Oh, nice.
You introduced me to it.
When we did Torrance, you remember Jeff when you texted me? I was like, who's that?
Yes.
Like, Jeff, he's gonna be huge.
He's gonna be huge. He's a star we're supposed to be looking out for. Have you had him on the show here yet?
I don't even know his last name.
And you don't have to know his last name. You just know Jeff's gonna be huge. Yeah, that was a crazy situation there in Torrance where the green room, it was just like open invitation of anyone who ever worked at that staff or was in that town back there.
Yeah.
It was a huge room, but it was also like it reminded me of like, like a 70s band, like an Almost Famous or something. Like, who are these fucking people? Like just different groups of
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, it was fine. No one was, a jerk or anything about it. It was just bizarre. I didn't know who anyone was. They kept on going, and there was Jeff, who was telling us about comedy. There's always one of those guys in those places but he wasn't one of those guys who was thinking about doing comedy. I think he said he did it like back in the '80s. I don't know. Maybe he did in the '80s or something. But he's thinking about coming back anyway. He told us to keep an eye out for him.
Right.
He's gonna be huge.
I just remember we were just texting each other like,
Yeah.
like, holy Lord. But no, but I totally agree with you. I feel like a green room should just be for the comics on the show. And I feel there's certain green rooms where they allow everybody.
Right.
And then sometimes you're like, wait, I'm so confused who's on the show or not. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and I don't even whatever if the other people, but you have to ask for sure. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's not just a room you need it for your headspace sometimes to, decompress, whatever, blah blah blah. And it's fine. Sometimes you want people in there, and sometimes you need it, but you have to ask them. Say like, hey, do you mind if these people come through? They're friends of mine, and introduce whatever. But it's like when it was revolving door. Yeah, I mean, there was more people in there than there was in the fucking show. In that show. I'm like, should we just bring the mic in here, for God's sakes?
It would have been cool if there was like another mic in that show, like the pre-show, then the show.
There's clubs that do that. I know. And I know in St. Louis, there's the Double Club there, and a couple other places I forget there was one up in Levittown. The Governor's up there. They have like a side mic room where you get off stage and then they bring you down the aisle and like, oh, hey, here you go. And they toss you in this other room. Next thing you know, you're doing another show. Like, what's going on here? You know, and you're like, like I thought I was walking to my fucking closet or something. You know, get some vegetable dip, and next thing you know, I'm doing another fucking 15 minutes.
But do you like clubs like that though? Because like I think that's kind of cool as a comic, but if like sometimes, especially if you had like a set you weren't so proud of, and then you go, to the room where you just want to relax, and they're like, oh, I would want to jump on the mic to outdo that bad set.
Yeah, it's interesting. If there's something you want to work on or something, you can definitely do that. It's like kind of going to the driving range or something after a round of golf or something. Like maybe hack some shots out there, work on that slice a little bit. So in that perspective, yes, it is fun. But sometimes it's a weird just vibe you're going into because maybe it's an open mic or something like that. And they're like, oh, and then they're like, you were on that show. And they kind of give you a bad look and judging something. I feel like I got to do something for them or something, or just staring at you, like. It's just weird, but you're right. No, I mean, there's not. Listen, more comedy the better for sure. Anywhere, yeah. So I definitely support that.
Now, I wanted to ask you when you got on Comedy Central, like how like was that like the thrill for you? Like, were you like, oh my god, now I'm on TV, and like, did it help you sell tickets like during that time? Like, how was your mindset? Because I've never been on the TV.
Well, let me tell you what you can expect, Keith, when you get on the TV.
All right.
And something like Comedy Central, a huge pillar of our society, like Comedy Central.
Back in the day, it was a big pillar, though.
It was the central location of comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you're Dave Chappelle or Jon Stewart, it was very big for you. But back in, so I was afterwards. No, it was great. Obviously, it was great. The show itself was live. It was it was filmed out here in LA, just on Santa Monica Boulevard. So the show was great. They pack it in, they edited it up, and it was fantastic. I was on Comedy Central. Was on the show Mashup, which TJ did. I've done roast battles, which was kind of fun. When you first go on. It's fun. That night we all viewed it, people watched it. We had a viewing party, so that was exciting. It really was.
Yeah.
I got about 50 as far as tickets. I would say I got about 50 more Twitter followers, who just went on there and they wanted to call you fat or something like that, or say you look ugly or whatever it is. Anyway, fame's wild, man. It's a wild ride, you go up and down. I began to shut out all the haters,
Right.
So no, I didn't get too crazy, but it goes, and then people forget about it. That's all it is. Anytime, anytime anything like that happens to you, there's a little splash, and then people forget about it. That's why they say strike while the iron's hot, because people forget quickly,
And I think, like, honestly, I think America's Got Talent is one of those
Mhm.
shows where, like, if a comedian, this is why I think a comedian's never won it. You know, if a comedian does win it, I think it'll change their career for maybe 1 or 2 years
Mm,
where they'll sell out. And then after 1 or 2 years, people will forget that they won America's Got Talent. You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah. So it's just a credit. It just becomes a credit like anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
And
it's just,
eventually it becomes such an old credit where they tell you to stop saying it. I know I was
yeah.
talking with our friend Nick Vatterott,
Oh, I love
and
Nick.
yeah, and I don't know if it was him or someone else whose credit was Dave Letterman, and the club told him you got to stop saying that because like these kids nowadays they don't even know who Dave Letterman is, and it makes you look old, and they don't want you to have that. I mean, it's fucking crazy.
Right.
So some things that were your dream are an embarrassment now,
Yeah.
as life goes on, you know. But
But
no, Nick is the best.
no, Nick's great. That is the one thing that I really do love about working with TJ is because all of TJ's crew, you,
Mm-hmm.
Dustin, Nick, all very funny, and we're all friends. Like there's no like jealousy or there's nothing like that in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
we all trust each other. Where when I was in Norm's crew, there was a lot of jealousy and envy and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, for sure. Now it's definitely an older crew, and that's kind of why they came up. I mean, like you hear stories of older comics tell about older comics ahead of them, behind them, and
Yeah.
they're really fucking mean with each other and cutthroat, because they're just absolute sharks. And eventually, I mean, each generation gets, I wouldn't say softer, I'd say smarter. You realize who the real enemies are, and it's the industry. You know what I mean? Like you have to, especially when you hang out with comics and you realize these are the only people you can relate to almost too also, so
Yeah.
why would you want to cut them off and make them on your bad side because those are the people that because when you hang out with industry and executives and shoot like that when they take you out it's the fucking worst. They're the worst people in the world, so
Yeah.
I get it like that. So I think it's a generational thing. Yeah, we happen to be fortunate where like there's no point of trying to undercut each other. That's for sure.
Yeah. And like, see me, I don't mind hosting. You know what I mean? I don't mind
Mhm.
going up first. I don't
Right.
like if I feature, that's cool, but that's not the first thing I like, whatever. If I'm on a show with TJ, I automatically assume I'm hosting. You know what I mean? Like, I don't,
Sure.
so like, that's why I like it because I think we're all so good
Yeah, it's just put
pals and it's
together
a
the
good
show.
show. That's all,
Absolutely.
you know. But I
No,
wanted to ask you where's the toughest place in comedy for you to perform that you just hate going to? Yeah.
interesting. Well, I don't want to badmouth any places, but I was
Not
just
the not the club, the city, like just
no,
like
I know.
oh yeah.
I was just in Portland recently, and not that Portland's a bad. Portland's a great place. Seattle up there, they're all great places. But
Yeah.
sometimes, if you get the different type of crowd, they're you can get a judgmental crowd. See, I don't mind judgmental crowds like in New York or even
Right.
LA sometimes because at least they have some merit behind it. But when you're like somewhere from fucking like Portland, like who the fuck are you guys? Give you, to be like this overly sensitive. Like, what are you talking about? You live in this fucking pouring rain. You should be angry. If anything, you shouldn't be like just have me on airs or whatever, if you will. So sometimes I have a tough time relating to the ultra hipster like that, where
Yeah.
they're so sensitive and whatever like that. I'm not saying like, oh, I can't say it. I'm not even saying like that. It's just like I just need to get some kind of relation where they don't like. And I'm kind of older too, where I'll say jokes and people don't like. Some people just don't like jokes anymore at all. Period.
Oh no. Yeah. Yeah.
They don't like effort.
I think like some people now, I mean, maybe it's both the comedian's fault and an audience fault, but I feel like now when an audience goes to a comedy show, they want to be part of that show. So they want to heckle
Yeah.
and they want to like try and be in that crowd work, which is so weird because before the show, the club always says no video. So you think who's releasing these videos that are going viral? Because I promise you, it's probably not the comedian. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and part of what you're saying too, though, that's what all the audience sees online is crowd
Yeah.
work material. You know what I mean? Because that's all people comics post is crowd work material because they don't want to burn the material, and that's how what seems to be working. So if they see that, the audience, and they go out there, and a lot of people already go out there entitled anyway that they want to be part of the show. So when they hear clubs say put your phones away, no heckling, they think that's a suggestion for someone else, not them. They want to be a part of it, and a lot of it is they don't know any better. The majority does. I'd say 95% of them do, but that 5%, and they're the ones always who come up to you afterwards and say, "Oh, I thought I'd help. I thought I was helping out." You're lucky I was, but yeah, I didn't need your help. I didn't ask for your help. And you reacting to every joke like it's a serious sentence is certainly not helping, not knowing what reality is. But you're right. They see the crowd work material, so now they want to be a part of it, and they're going to go viral, and that's a dangerous thing.
Yeah, crowd work is probably my worst strength as a comic. Like, I'm not good at it at all.
Yeah, I can do it, and I can be good at it. You don't have to. It's not like a special skill because you already have the advantage with crowd work. You know what I mean? Like, there's some people that are great at it. TJ being one of them.
TJ's great.
Yeah, brilliant at it. It's certainly skill. I mean, I don't like to keep it going, overflowing but you have an advantage because anytime someone is talking to you or heckling or whatever, the rest of the crowd wants to laugh at that person. No one likes that person who heckles it. You know what I mean? So and then you have the microphone. You can say basically anything, and you'll get an overreaction from everyone else because, even if it's not clever, because they want to everyone wants that heckler shut down. That's the whole point of it. Everyone wants it because they remind them of that person at work, the jerk at fucking work. So that's everyone's gathering up on that.
You just want to punch that jerk in the face.
Right. And you can punch that jerk with your words, and everyone else can enjoy their humiliation and make them, leave. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, CJ, I have 3 more questions. I want to respect your time, but
all right.
Question number 1, because my favorite football player retired like 3 years ago, so I don't really have a football guy to root for. So I was wondering, who's your favorite football player, and who's a good guy to root for right now? Like, I like the underdogs, guys who aren't good, but they are good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I loved Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I was just gonna say, was that? I mean, how you gonna say who the football player was and not mention his name? It's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Is your favorite? Was your favorite?
It was the best. I loved it.
What was it about him? Was it the beard? Was it that he went to Harvard?
It was that when he threw a touchdown, everyone was like, "Oh my god!" And then when he threw a pick, he still played his ass off.
Yeah,
like he didn't just throw and then be like, like he still, like, I saw him throw 6 picks in a game once. He still fucking played his ass off, even though he was being really
6
bad.
interceptions. You're right, but he still did it. Yeah. Even though he shouldn't have. He should have stopped. He should have shut it down. I like those people too.
It was just I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, no one wanted you to keep fighting. We're all hoping you'd quit, but here you are.
But he's great. Admirable about that, though.
Absolutely, there is, and you know what? You need that in comedy too. You need that kind of lack of awareness sometimes. You need to plow through fucking red flags and just bust through in order to get to the other side. Because if you were aware of everything that people are saying about you, you would never go back on stage. You'd be embarrassed.
And see, that's what's good about me in comedy, because I'm not aware.
Correct. I was gonna say that's one of your best traits you have. You have no idea what you look like up there or what you sound like or what people are saying about you, because if you did, you wouldn't come anywhere within miles of a comedy club, let alone on the stage of that comedy club. I always said that about him. His lack of awareness is his biggest attribute. But to answer your question, I would say I got a guy for you, and he is a quarterback. He was just anointed a starting quarterback. He just won the job of the Las Vegas Raiders. A great city, of course, that we've been to with gambling and all that, and the Raiders. His name is Gardner Minshew.
Okay.
He's kind of a journeyman. He's got a mustache. He has a famous mustache.
He played for the Jags.
Played for the Jags. You're right. They called it Minshew Mania,
Yeah.
Then he went to Philly. He's bounced around, and now he's in the Raiders, and he's battling out for quarterback job. Players like him. They rally around him. He's got moxie. He's not that good, but you know what I mean? They even said, why did it? They even asked the coach, Antonio Pierce, why did he win the starting quarterback? I was, there's just something about him. I don't know. He gets the girls. And I tell you what he also did. He lives in an RV. He parks outside the stadium. He doesn't have an apartment or anything. He's one of those guys, lives that van life. So he's definitely a guy you can get behind. He's very likable. Gardner Minshew is your new favorite football player.
All right, cool. Because I was going to pick Bailey Zappi, but I heard he's probably not even going to be in the league in a couple.
Yeah,
days.
well, he's in the league. But he's now third string for the Patriots. But he does have a good nickname, Zappy Hour.
Yeah,
which I like. Yeah,
so
don't worry, be Zappy. But yeah, dump him. Go with Gardner Minshew, quarterback for the Raiders.
all right, cool. And then my second question for you is, if you could go into a time machine and talk to a younger version of CJ, and knowing everything that you know now, what advice would you give yourself that you know now?
Well, if I could go to a time machine and talk to younger CJ, much like Biff in the Back to the Future series, I would bring that famous sports almanac, that had all the scores from when he gave Biff all the scores to win an empire of gambling. It was always weird about that sports almanac. It had 50 years of sports, but it was as thick as a TV guide. Like, what the how did they get all the? Not only did it have all the scores, it had all the horse fucking results too. You know how many that is alone? That thing would be bigger than a goddamn Chinese phone book. This thing
you
was
just
like
needed one sport, though.
Yeah, you did only need one sport. This thing was like a People magazine. He was like putting it in his jacket and shit. Like, what the fuck? It's got 50 years of sports scores. So yeah, that's 100% what I would do. Everything else, I would. They always say, you don't want to change anything because of the time continuum. Fuck that. I would alter all of history so everything would turn up great for me. And if something bad happened in my life, like loved ones, oh well, because I got to win. Change.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, damn right.
And then my last question for you, and this is just because we're sports guys.
Yeah.
Do you think the Lakers made a mistake drafting Bronny James? And do you think that he'll actually be good, or do you think he's just going to suck?
Right. Well, he could be somewhat good. But I mean, he is a defender. He's an athlete, and people do forget sometimes his dad is LeBron James. Right. That means something. You know what I mean? Like in his blood. It's not like he's like Tommy Boy. His dad's a CEO. He's a fucking. His dad is the greatest basketball player of his generation, if not all time. I think it was worth drafting him just if it made LeBron James happy. You know what I mean? Because it's a second-round pick. Obviously, sometimes they don't really do great. They don't really affect your team. But if you're $billion CEO, basically corporations, that's what NBA is now. Like these players run the league, and LeBron James certainly is the NBA. You want to make him as happy as possible. So if that means drafting his son, giving him an absurd guaranteed contract, fuck it. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Get him out there. He's not going to hurt the team. It's not like he's never played basketball before. He's not going out there, and trying to juggle fucking tennis balls and shit. Like he's played basketball. He knows what the sport is. So he won't get in the way. Yeah, it's not a great look, that's for sure. And he's got a lot of pressure, and the people want him really good. But yeah, I mean. People forget, like, obviously, because there's only 2 rounds. The draft used to be a lot of rounds,
Oh, yeah, like 5 or 6.
Yeah, and this used to happen all the time where they would just draft sons of the owners. And, like, for the Celtics drafted a guy in a wheelchair, for fuck's sakes, one time because they wanted to do a guy a favor. It's like Red Auerbach's like, with the 14,000th pick, we picked Bones McGee, who hasn't walked since '83. And, like, it was, like, symbolic and shit. Like, so what? Who cares?
Right.
People were kind of really freaking out about it because that's LeBron James. Anytime it's something like that, they want to freak out and the whole Nepo baby thing. It's just stupid.
Yeah. I guess that's my last question is because my favorite NBA player retired like 20 years ago, and I don't have a favorite NBA player. Who do you think I should pick?
Well, who was your? I love how you keep announcing these anonymous favorite players. Who was your favorite player 20 years?
I loved Eddie Jones.
Eddie Jones?
Yeah.
Yes. How come you loved Eddie Jones so much? Temple Al, by the way.
Yeah, because he was with the Lakers, and he never cared about being the star. He just cared about playing. Right. And then when he moved around the league where he was the star, he didn't even want to be the star. So he just cared about playing. You know what I mean? So like, I kind of like that, where it's just like all about playing and having fun.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Eddie Jones, he was also, I remember him being on, was he on Fresh? He was on Hanging with Mr. Cooper. I remember when he was on the Lakers. He was on a good basketball. Of course, he always have a basketball episode, Mark Curry, since he was a basketball player. But I remember Eddie Jones being on it. Those Lakers were kind of the dead years, but I like that one. Yeah. I like after Eddie Jones retired, so that's it. I'm done with basketball. I'm not even going to know who plays afterwards. LeBron, who? Never heard of him. Haven't watched the sport since Eddie Jones retired. But to give you a quick one, take on. Even though I hate the New York Knicks because I'm a Sixers fan, Jalen Brunson is someone you could definitely root for. He's a star in the Knicks, but he's also not a star. He just like turned down like $100 million so they could sign more players like on his contract. I mean, he'll get it eventually. And don't do a charity case for him. But like he did things that other people usually don't do, and he's a team first guy. Went to Villanova, plays hard. He's the anti of what these NBA players when you think about are. So Jalen Brunson is who I would say.
I am a Knicks fan, and I would say he's probably my favorite Knick. So,
well, there you go.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Well, CJ, where can the folks at home follow and support you at?
All right. Well, also obviously on the socials, Instagram, my handle is CJ Sullivan was taken. Not like Liam Neeson, but like the actual words were taken, So it says CJ Sullivan was taken with underscores in between each word. Or on X at CJ Sullivan _ TikTok, the same thing. YouTube. My podcast, which you were talking about, The Bottom Line Bombs, which is on the Sports Gaming Podcast Network, SGPN, Bottom Line Bombs. I'm the man in the box. If you follow me there on YouTube, Bottom Line Bombs, my YouTube page, subscribe to that. Or CJ Sullivan is also have stand up on there. You can follow me on all the socials. You get that. I throw dates up on there as well. I mean, I can say my comedy website, but I can't remember the last time I updated that. CJSullivanComedy.com. Socials is the best way. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, CJ Sullivan. Just follow me.
All right. Well, CJ, thank you so much for doing my podcast. It was great. It was fun talking to you and stuff, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. Glad I did it. Love the sports hat, the normie one. You said you were going to get me one, then you all said you were going to get me on the show. Then the show went down, and then Norm died, and all kinds of things happened. But I'll see you on the road.
I will definitely get you a hat. All right, guys. I'll see you later, CJ.
All right, buddy. Later.
All right, guys. All right, that was the episode with CJ Sullivan. Subscribe, rate, review, and we'll see you guys next week.